something that I guess wouldn't be as controversial because these are U.S. government documents, so there's no denying that they exist and obviously did take place in some manner or form, or they wouldn't be documented by the United States government.
What's happening with our mainstream media? What's happening with our law enforcement? Now, you know, a lot of people have been. You've stated you got interested in the Kennedy assassination. I mean, I think one of the obvious reasons that he was assassinated was Executive Order 11110 issuing U.S. notes, United States notes. He was trying to stop the Federal Reserve.
It could well be. You know, there's no doubt about it that, you know, he who has the money has the power, and unfortunately our government doesn't have the money. The Federal Reserve makes and creates all the money, and they're a small group of bankers, and so in essence, because they control the money, they control the United States of America pretty well, if you want to use those basic terms.
Are you aware of what just happened down here in Tucson with the SWAT teams coming in on a supposed to serve a search warrant and shooting an Iraqi vet?
No, I'm not. My problems with our country right now deal more with the border issues because I cross the border every year. I live half my year in Mexico and I live the other half in the United States, and it disturbs me when I come into the United States I laughingly, when I leave Mexico, I tell all my friends down there that I'm heading back to East Berlin, because when I come into the United States now, it reminds me of coming into East Berlin. We're supposed to be the bastion of freedom, and yet we're in a lockdown mode. Everyone in this country seems to be not wanting to follow Ben Franklin, and when Ben Franklin said that if you exchange your liberty for security, you'll end up with neither. And I think that that's what we're doing in this country. We're exchanging our liberty for supposed security, and in the ultimate end, we will have neither, as Ben Franklin said.
What can we do to reverse this? I mean, we don't seem to have any choice with politicians. I've been involved with
yes, we do. We still have a choice that's the most basic one on earth, and that we have in this country, and that is voting. But what we have to do is stop voting for Democrats and Republicans.
Two wings of the same bird. They are responsible,
these two parties. They've been running our country now for the last century. Look at the mess we're in. It's all their decisions that have done this. So it's quite simply stop voting for Democrats and Republicans. That's a simple way to do it, but it's a complicated issue because our voters and our people are such lemmings that they feel that the only thing they can vote for is a Democrat or Republican. They've been trained to that. They've been brainwashed to that. And unfortunately, it'll take time to unbrainwash them from that, if it can ever be done. But that's the simple way to take our country back, is to abolish the two political parties. That's what I stand for now. I don't even stand for the third party movement anymore, because I believe the system is so corrupted by these two parties that any third party in which to survive will likewise have to corrupt itself. So you'll have a three-headed monster as opposed to a two-headed one. I stand for the abolishment of political parties. There's two things we could do right away that would work. First of all, but getting them done is a whole different thing. First of all, do not put political parties on an election ballot. Put only names. Because right now when you go in there, you vote for the party, not the person. If you remove the party names on all ballots, then you have to vote for a person. And you have to educate yourself. What does John Smith stand for? Second of all election ballots at the bottom should be none of the above, which is actually a vote of no confidence in your government. That way, if you've got Democrat and Republican and that's your only two choices, you can vote no confident, none of the above. And I'm willing to bet there'd be certain elections in this country where you'd actually see none of the above win. Now, what kind of impact would that have? Let's just say hypothetically I'm a Republican and I beat my Democratic opponent, but I lose to none of the above. Well, now I go to office, of course, But wouldn't that make me rethink my position a little bit? To know that more people voted for nobody than voted for me?
Jesse, what would you do about the foreign situation? Right now, we are giving foreign aid to 150 countries, and some of them are like Red China.
Well, first of all, I would rather look at let's look at our defense budget for a moment. That's what ties into this book. I now know why we have to have the defense budget we have, because our behavior around the world has not been very good. We do a lot of bad things out there. And now I understand, I guess, why we have to protect ourselves so much. I would rather step right in there and ask the question. I believe we have military bases in like 248 countries or something like that. Why? Let's close those bases down and bring our people home. The majority of our militaries in Germany, Korea, and Japan. Weren't those wars 50 years ago?
Yes.
What are we there for? Why is our military strung out all over the whole world? We are following exactly what felled the Roman Empire. And we're following it to a T, because people in this country are too stupid to read history, or as I call my books, alternative history. They're too stupid to read because of the old cliche. If you don't study history, you're doomed to repeat it. Well, we're now repeating it in a decade, because nobody will study it.
What is this war about in Afghanistan for? Is that over lithium?
Well, it ought to be.
Or is it over?
Okay, we went to war because of 9/11, correct?
Yes, sir.
Well, now we've got the alleged perpetrator. They told us we just killed him. So why shouldn't our mission accomplished? Why shouldn't our troops come home now? We got the main guy.
Well, they're guarding those opium poppy fields. You know those old those.
No. It's for more than that. Opium poppy fields are a minor thing compared to the other thing in Afghanistan, and that's lithium. Last fall, it was in the paper. They found a vein of lithium in Afghanistan that they say will be worth $1 trillion. What is lithium used for?
Everything.
Lithium is used for every cell phone, every computer, and soon to be electric cars. Always remember, our military does not fight for the people of America anymore, and we really haven't been almost in the last century. We fight for corporations. Like, if you read the works of General Smedley Butler, the two-time Marine Corps Congressional Medal of Honor winner, in his memoirs he states he died in 1940. And he said, I didn't fight for the people of the United States. I fought for the United Fruit Company. When they wouldn't cooperate with the corporation, then they send in the Marine Corps.
I've got one of my listeners here. Says, while you were governor, was there something important that came to your attention that set off alarms that you were dealing with criminals in the government? And the CIA did visit you, didn't it?
Shot a loss for me, and I never state who it is, but that the CIA is embedded in state government. In Minnesota, there's a CIA operative at an executive position that stays there as governors come and go. Now, the CIA's mission statement says they're not to be operational inside the United States. Why are they violating that? And why on earth are they embedded in state government? And I can only assume they're in all state government, because I can't believe Minnesota would be the exception. Now, I can't state that they're in the other 49 states unequivocally, but I'll take that leap. They certainly are in Minnesota, and I can't believe that they wouldn't be in Wisconsin or Texas or California too.
Jesse, I've got a book out, and years ago, it's called Mystery Babylon. Years ago, I got a hold of the Catolo document. This is Special Forces Colonel Edward P. Catolo, who gave a notarized statement to to the NSA regarding the CIA's involvement and the Special Forces involvement in the drug trade, in running cocaine into Albrook Air Force Base, where it was shipped by Barry Seal up to a little protected airport in Mena, Arkansas.
But let me inject this. Clearly, to me, there's no doubt that someone in high levels of government is making money on illegal drugs. Because, again, you follow history. My mother said to me before she died, and my mom lived during prohibition of alcohol. My mom said to me that the war on drugs is identical to the prohibition of alcohol. All you're doing is making criminals rich and powerful. So again, we don't read our history books. We saw that prohibition did not work with alcohol, and yet we come back and prohibit and do all this stuff that they know doesn't work. So I always go under the foray of follow the money, like Deep Throat said in All the President's Men. So clearly, in my opinion, someone in high places making a killing off keeping drugs illegal, because otherwise why would they be? And why would there be this war against them when, I personally would rather have a drug user in my neighborhood than I would a child molester, and yet we seem to let child molesters back in the neighborhoods, and we'd rather incarcerate drug users.
Well, they're nonviolent, so they fit into prison.
I ran when I was governor. I said a statement. I said you can't legislate stupidity, because in a free country, freedom is also the freedom to be stupid, and using drugs is stupid. But again, in my opinion, you can't make every stupid decision a person makes. You can't turn around and make that against the law unless they harm someone else while they make their stupid decision. How do you make a crime against yourself? I don't understand that.
There's no corpus delicti. There's no crime being committed. And what right did the government have to take our #1 cash crop away in the 39? That was hemp. You could pay your taxes with hemp, Jesse, and they stole it from us.
And not only that, absolutely, and not only that, but the fact that hemp and marijuana is the least dangerous drug. Alcohol and tobacco, I like to use this quote about that issue. I always like to say this: marijuana is to rock and roll what beer is to baseball. So imagine if they took away beer at the ball game for a minute.
Well, they tried to.
I grew up in the 60s. When you went to a Jimi Hendrix concert, you didn't even have to bring anything with.
Or as Toby Keith,
joints were passed right down the row.
As Toby Keith said, great contact high,
Well, whatever. But the point is, no one was harmed. Nobody was hurt. Unless a crime is committed, then prosecute for the crime. I don't care what influenced the person to do it.
Now, have you met Governor Gary Johnson, former governor?
Oh, very much so. I stand right with Governor Johnson on legalization. I think Governor Johnson and I are probably one or two of the only sane opinions out there of elected officials.
Absolutely. Well, you certainly got my support and my vote. Let me ask you.
And Governor Johnson took a bold step, and I've stepped right with him, I think, in advocating for the legalization of marijuana and the decriminalization of all drugs, because, again, prohibition does not work. Prohibition causes more problems than the drugs do.
And it feeds a police state. Now we've got private prisons on here. Now, Gary Johnson supports some private prisons, but there's also kind of a drawback to that.
I don't support private prisons. I think that you lose your accountability with the private sector. I think that's a job that is up to government to do and elected officials to take responsibility for prisons. And when you privatize, everyone's in a mood to privatize everything. But you have to remember something. When you privatize something, that means it becomes a for-profit business. It then becomes a profit maker. And I think there's certain things we need to do that government should do, because they should not be for profit.
That's right. And I think we've been putting the wrong people.
I would boldly say that about health care. Because in my opinion, everyone should have the right, humanely, in the United States of America, to be able to go to the doctor if you're sick. That's simple. It's that simple. If we weren't spending all this money on these wars, we would have more than enough money to pay for health care.
What about the pharmaceutical industry, though, Jesse? I mean,
they're horrible.
There's your conspiracy theory.
Again, that goes back to lobbyists, corporate money, and the buying and the selling of the Democrats and Republicans. I have to laugh when I watch TV in the afternoons. Every other ad is about taking drugs.
Yes.
And the side effects of these drugs are unbelievable. At the end of the ads, they have to tell you the side effects. The side effects are worse than what the people got.
Josh, I was asked by a friend of mine, somebody else I've had on my show, Wesley Hoyt, to inform you about that exact thing. There was the first child shot at Columbine was Mark Taylor. He was shot about 7 times and got rehabilitated. They came through, he and his mother came through here to see me. They went through Phoenix. She took him to an emergency room, and they kept him for a year until I found him some attorneys and found him somebody to help him. And Wesley wanted me to make you aware of this because he said it's a lot more expansive than one person, one Mark Taylor. They're putting these people in these facilities and milking them for all of their income, all of their Social Security, whatever benefits they got, and the government. And
well, you need to look no farther than your drinking water.
Fluoride in it.
Exactly. I mean, they tell us that's to take care of our teeth. Well, I don't need the government to tell me to brush my teeth and use mouthwash. I think I'm capable of making that decision on my own. They don't have to put fluoride in the water. But what gets me is what people don't understand is fluoride was first put in the water by the Nazis. And that fluoride is the main 90% ingredient of Prozac.
Yes.
So what you're getting essentially is Prozac in the water. And tell me that it's not the dumbing down of America. Maybe that's why I am like I am. Fortunately for me, all the houses I've owned in my adult life have all had their own wells. And so I haven't been drinking the Prozac water. Maybe that's why I wrote the book, 63 Documents the Government Don't Want You to Read. I'm not on Prozac.
On Chapter 42, you're talking about the Homeland Security Cybersecurity Agreement with the Pentagon. And in the first Homeland Security meeting that I filmed, I mean, they were talking about what happened in case of a attack or earthquake of sufficient magnitude. What's going on with the Pentagon? What is the Pentagon? And I think you've got the same opinion of the Department of Homeland Security that I do. This is the Gestapo all over again.
I like to refer to the Department of Homeland Security lovingly today as the Gestapo.
Yes.
That's my slang term for them because I've had a couple run-ins with them already. They're not very friendly people for the most part. And what we're going after there ties into to Document 41 also, the Internet kill switch. Well, the Internet was the last bastion of freedom out there, of communication, really. I mean, they're tapping our phones now. They violate our Bill of Rights. Our phones are all tapped, and they can, search and do all this stuff. They don't have to abide by the Constitution or the Bill of Rights anymore. So the Internet was the last bastion where thought could be exchanged and not be tempered or not be censored. And you knew that they couldn't allow that. And so now these documents show that the government is taking over the Internet. The kill switch is that the president at any moment can shut down the internet for whatever reason he deems necessary. And it all falls under the label, of course, of national security, which is the phrase always used when they're going to take our rights away from us and batten us down and restrict us even more. We're so dumb in this country, we're not following the words of Ben Franklin. And Ben Franklin said, for those that want to give up liberty for security, in the end they'll have neither. And that's the road we're going down. If liberty is security, and if you give up your liberty, you will not have security either. You'll have neither.
You're right. And Benjamin Franklin also told us, when asked what form of government he had wrought for us, he said, a constitutional republic, ma'am, if you could keep it. Why aren't our FBI officials, they took the same oath that you and I took. There's no expiration date on that oath. Why are the FBI, why are the law enforcement, why is the CIA not looking at these financial criminals, not looking at the pharmaceutical companies, not looking at the real reason behind 9/11?
Because corporate America runs the government. They're not going to investigate themselves.
And Thomas Jefferson
warned us.
It's simple. Thomas Jefferson.
They run the government. They control the two political parties. Every elected official has to kowtow to them, and they're certainly not going to lead a government investigation into themselves.
That's right. That's right.
Why do you think when we have a disaster in this country, and then who investigates it? The government. They investigate themselves. You're not going to get a legitimate investigation. You never do.
Let me get a quick opinion on the Israeli situation. I mean, the Israel was started as a Rothschild's colony, and again, Thomas Jefferson warned us that if you ever allow a private bank to issue your money, the corporations, the banks and the corporations that spring up around them will leave your children homeless in the world, in the land that we conquered. We've got over 1 million Americans out of their homes right now. They were, and as Bush was walking out, he handed the banksters $2 trillion. That was enough to pay off every mortgage in America.
Yep.
How do we oppose this? These are the same people that are trying to say that you and I are conspiracy theorists. The peers out there on CNN are trying to, trying to do anything they can to.
I don't know. Again, they own our mainstream media, and it's shows like yours that allow people like me to come on, and hopefully people are listening out there, and hopefully they'll take the initiative to stop voting for these people. Both parties, they're equally to blame. They are fully responsible, and we hold in our hands to knock them out, beat them in elections, and that's as simple as it is, but yet that's a mountain to climb. It's bigger than Mount Everest.
It is. Let me ask you.
To me, that's the hope.
Now, I came up with a plan years ago for something called Liberty Villages. And I realized that back in the Depression, 40% of Americans lived and worked on farms. Today, that's 2%. What's happened in America is the 9th plank on the Communist Manifesto, which calls for corporate farms. Archer Daniels Midland. Hey, don't worry about your crops won't die because we already put the pesticide in it. But here.
Oh yeah. Why do you think I live in Mexico half the year? Well, I eat much better down there than I do up here, because down there I actually get organic food. When I buy fruits and vegetables down in Mexico, I have to eat them within a day or two because they'll spoil. All the stuff up here has a 30-day shelf life because of the preservatives we put on it.
Now we're being divided up here. Now I think the what's happening with the Democratic and Republican parties, that's two wings of the same bird, and their strategy is divide and conquer. So they want to set us against the Mexicans. They want to build a defense to divide it instead of just doing their job. And
do you want to know what term I put it in?
Yes, sir.
That's closer to me.
Yes, sir.
The Democrats and Republicans are like pro wrestling. Out in front of the camera, they hate each other, and they're going to kick everyone's ass. But behind the scenes, they're all friends and going to dinner together. They're doing business.
Right.
Politics is pro wrestling. That was one of my classes I taught at Harvard. Was how does pro wrestling prepare you for politics? And when I was done teaching the class, I had all these young Harvard bright kids realizing that politics and wrestling are really the same thing. Well, okay. What does pro wrestling train you to do? Number one, you got to sell yourself. That's how you make money. Well, that's no different than going and getting a vote, whether they're giving you $1 or giving you their vote. Number two, you got to be able to think on your feet, because Murphy's Law always happens in a match. What can go wrong will. So you have to be prepared to ad-lib on your feet. That's also good in politics, because you're going to get questions you're not prepared for sometimes. And number three, and probably most importantly, the person I portray as Jesse the Body Ventura in the ring may be nothing like what I really am in real life. And that's the way these politicians are. What they portray to you on TV is probably nothing like what they're really like. Case in point, look at that guy in Florida that was leading the charge on advocacy for molested children and all that, while at the same time he was emailing all the pages. Remember that?
Yes, sir. All right,
there
Jesse,
you got the example. He's not what he appears to be. Just like in pro wrestling, what I appear to be on TV may be nothing like what I am in real life. You're performing.
Jesse, I appreciate what you do, and you know, you're welcome to.
Well, thank you, and thank you for having me on. I'm sorry for the miscommunication this morning. No
that's
problem.
That's all right. Let's try it again sometime.
Thanks for having me on, and you keep up the good work, because it shows like yours that allow people like me to speak freely, which is what our country's supposed to be all about.
Well, sir, what they've been doing to me, Jesse, is trying to silence me. They've tried to destroy me. They've tried to kill me 3 times in the last 6 years.
I can say to you, welcome to the club.
Yes, sir. That's why it's so nice. It's so nice to have you over here.
They haven't tried to kill me yet, but they've sure tried to silence me.
Yes, sir. That's their plan. I'm blocked in every library across the country. They say I'm a porno site. FreeAmerican.com, Jesse, and my phone numbers are up there. I'd love to have you back on my show, and I'd love to be on yours. I've been doing this.
Okay, well, thank you very much. Keep up the good work, and we'll talk again.
All right, sir. Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.
God bless. Bye-bye. Okay, that's it. Hope you enjoyed that. Hope we got your questions out. And God bless you. We're, whoops, one more thing here to do. One more thing to do. And stop that.
Call recording has been completed.
Okay. Adios. Be right back. Gotta walk the dogs. See if I can find you something appropriate. Yeah.